Hello friends, my name is Igor Gavrishchak, YouTube platform of the 24th channel. Welcome to opposition politician Gennady Gudkov. Gennady, hello. Igor, hello to you and to all the viewers. Let me remind our viewers that this is a live broadcast. It's October 9th. Give us your likes, subscribe, we'll go over everything. First of all, Gennady, we were discussing mobilization in Russia. On September 6, if I'm not mistaken, everything should be ready. The other day, Putin signed a law according to which defendants can now sign a contract at the trial stage. Previously, this possibility of exemption from liability was available only to those who were under investigation. Gennady, do I understand correctly that this is that mobilization? Is this an alternative to mobilization? No, this is completely the wrong kind of mobilization. What is happening in Russia? Putin realizes that forced mobilization will cause a wave of negativity, and there is no telling what the consequences will be. That's why he's trying not to announce a new wave of mobilization for as long as possible. Perhaps the war will end, negotiations will begin, a truce will be reached. He is dragging it out until the last minute. They are now exhausting all their reserves. And at the moment, for example, the whole of Russia is taped, plastered, and covered with advertising, which is everywhere. On the networks, on television, from every iron, from every refrigerator, from every shaving machine. The advertisements urge you to sign a contract. They are currently working with money again, offering a record one-time allowance of 3 million rubles, sourced from federal, regional, and municipal funds. Belgorod Oblast likely doesn't have this amount, suggesting the governor may either fear removal and is spending the last of his funds or has secured federal subventions for recruitment. That's why they now allow school children to sign a contract. I'm not kidding. If you turn 18 after school or even during your studies, you already have the right to sign a contract that exempts you from being drafted into the regular army. Everyone is allowed to do this, even criminals, even during the investigation phase. There is an active recruitment of migrants who are ready to sign a contract for citizenship and all these severance payments. There are persistent rumors, and I think they are all the more voiced there in Ukraine. Allegedly, some units of North Korean armed forces have been recorded near the Russian-Korean border. Whether they will be felling timber, whether they will be repairing roads, whether they will be sent to Ukraine to the front. So Putin is trying to avoid this wave of mobilization, but it seems unlikely that he will succeed. Because all experts say with one voice that the attrition rate is much faster than the recruitment of this cannon fodder. This is the situation. By September 6, military commissions had prepared all the lists, calculated all the reserves, and made plans on how they would fulfill the order sent down from above by the General Staff. They sent all the proposals to the General Staff. As far as I know, the General Staff has reported to Putin proposals for mobilization, including deferrals for students and the elimination of these deferrals. But so far, Putin doesn't want this. Politically, mobilization will not be accepted, although administratively everything is ready. Gennady, how large will this mobilization be, and what will be the consequences? After all, sources say that by 2027, money has already been budgeted to sign 200,000 people a year. 225,000 people a year is not enough with such intense fighting. 400,000 are needed. That is at a minimum to maintain the size of the army that is there.
225 тысяч в год не хватает при таких интенсивных боях. Нужно 400 тысяч. Это минимум 400 тысяч. Для просто сохранения той численности армии, которая там находится.
If Putin wants to step up and do something else, then this figure increases, which means that the situation is such that the order is large and the swing is very significant. Of course, I don't have the data, it's secret, but in general you can calculate that if, let's say, an average Moscow military recruitment office in dormitory districts has a mobilization order of about 250 to 300 people, and there are 9 such military recruitment offices, you can imagine the scale of this mobilization. I think that they can reach about 850,000 people according to the mobilization plan. Military enlistment offices, most likely, which will not fulfill, will subtract some figure from these 850,000, and it turns out that 500 or 600,000 they plan to call up. Not necessarily all of them will go to the front. Some part will be at the front, in training centers, in the reserves. According to these orders from St. Petersburg and the Moscow region, we can judge that this figure is planned. Again, this is my purely personal opinion, a rough estimate, I may be very much mistaken, 1,100, but I think there is an order for 800,000. So, the most important reason why Putin doesn't want to take this step at the cannon fodder in depressed areas is practically chosen. People who previously received 25,000 rubles are now being offered 2 million rubles for signing a contract, plus 250,000 rubles monthly. Regions have been depleted by conscription, leaving no mobilization reserves. The planned mobilization by the General Staff targets major cities like Moscow, St. Petersburg, and Yekaterinburg, where it can be more impactful. So they are now doing everything possible, sending reserves, sending people from prisons to the front. Since there is no longer enough voluntary cannon fodder, advertising becomes obsessive, offering a huge number of benefits.
То есть уже просто потому, что не хватает вот этого пушечного мяса в добровольном порядке, ну, добровольно-принудительно. Плюс, конечно, навязчивая реклама, плюс там всякие...
I read that in Tatarstan, I came across a poster, no, not a poster, but an announcement of benefits. There's exemption from military service credit, exemption from interest payments, almost free loans, credit vacations if you have a mortgage. There's a bunch of other benefits for family, healthcare, and stuff like that. There is a huge number of offers. I don't know what else is missing. All that's left is to say, we'll give you a free Thai massage if you go to the front. We've already started this scam. A call, bring a comrade, get an extra 100,000.
Если пойдете на фронт. И уже пошла ход вот этот лохотрон, вот этот вот призывной. Приведи товарищей, получит дополнительно 100 тысяч. Это не шутка. Это официально.
It's not a joke. It's a real ad. Bring a comrade, get 100,000 in addition to what you already have. So it's clear that those people who have already decided to go are taking advantage of this and saying that I'm not the only one who came, but a comrade as well. Then they divide these 50, then 1,000, probably. This is the kind of scam that is going on in Russia now, to avoid a new wave, when there will be a general groaning throughout the country. Where are you going, Vanyok? Don't you feel sorry for yourself?
Вот этого пока еще нет, но Путин понимает, что это начнется, как только будет объявлена принудительная мобилизация. А так, пожалуйста, любое отребье сейчас востребовано, абсолютно необразованные, криминальные, тупые, алкоголики, хронические, так сказать, каким-то заболеванием, наркоманы, вся эта пена, она может спокойно и идет на фронт. И вы знаете, я вам честно скажу, что говорят в России по этому поводу. вот эта вот утилизация людей малоценных для общества, потому что я извиняюсь за цинизм, но так говорят люди сейчас в России, что вот Путин избавляет Россию от балласта, от быдла. То есть, как бы, не жалко. Вот этих людей не жалко. Жалости к ним общество не испытывает. Типа, ты хотел сорвать куш, ты пошел, так сказать, и прочее. Тебя, так сказать, привезли в пакете. Ну, это твой выбор. Не жалко.
These people do not arouse pity. Society has no compassion for them. You wanted to make a fortune, you went, so to speak, and so on, and they brought you in a bag. It's your choice. There is no pity, and we are sitting here, going to theaters, drinking beer on the veranda, chatting with each other. It doesn't concern us. This mood is also in Russia now. It's unexpected, but nevertheless, Putin is doing well. He is ridding Russia of this slag. Gennady, those who are not coming back in the black bag. Sources say that on October 7th, citing information sources, including the Institute for the Study of War, Sergey Kiriyenko, deputy head of the presidential administration, promised Putin that in the near future, when there will be some appointments, elections, 50 Russian military personnel who were in this war will become mayors and governors. How serious it will be, because I see how it will be a circular vouching for those who fought in the occupation war, then things will get even worse. Yes, of course, there is a degradation of the administrative apparatus. Positions are now occupied according to two main principles: the principle of thievery and the principle of loyalty. First comes the principle of loyalty, and then the principle of thievery. These two qualities are now hypertrophied in all managerial apparatuses. That is, you come on someone's patronage, you are already someone's man, you are loyal to the authorities and your masters, you are ready to steal and share. These two principles are at the top of the list, and there are no elections. Now you can take a Labrador, a horse, or a cat, and without any problems they will get 80% of the votes and become governors, mayors, or whatever you want. Therefore, they will certainly try to find some decent people, not criminals, in the internal policy department, which Kiriyenko commands. Decent, I mean smart. So you can find about 50 people like that in Russia.
Вот поэтому примерно таких человек 50 найдут, желательно не идейных, потому что идейные они потом еще Путин начнут критиковать за сопляжуйство. Вот поэтому нужно не идейные, а нужно чувствующие тонкую конъюнктуру, готовые встраиваться в систему, совершать преступления уже должностного порядка и правильно выстраивать отношения с начальством. Ну, 50 человек на всю страну несложно найти, дадут там 2 места губернатора, остальных каких-нибудь зелепупинских.
They will be planted by measures, but this will be the order fulfilled, like a new elite.
И еще кем-то там пэрами. Вот, ну, это вот будет разнарядка выполнена, типа новая элита.
Gennady, you brought up the migrants. Kadyrov went to the Kremlin with an accusation against the Russian authorities. In his opinion, the Russian authorities should establish a competent system of migration control and the right policy in this area. He says we need to do all this rather than subject citizens of other countries to indiscriminate inquisition. How serious a statement is that toward the Kremlin? Out in the open? No, it's not a serious statement.
Да несерьезно это высказывание. Это он таким образом защищает попавших под раздачу таджиков, которые в России работают, там, из узбеков, то есть лиц, которые приезжают в Россию, ну, скажем так, из ислама.
This is his way of protecting Tajiks in Russia, showing he defends adherents of Islam. However, it's largely theatrical. There's no real conflict. Kadyrov is doing well, and rumors of a vendetta are unfounded. Sources familiar with the situation in Chechnya confirm he is on vacation and maintains excellent relations with Putin. So it's misleading to believe otherwise.
людям, которые хорошо знают ситуацию в Чечне, сказать, что, слушайте, прекратите слушать все эти слухи, Кадыров с семьей отдыхает вот там-то, сейчас он возвращается, все у него в порядке, с Путиным у него отношения прекрасные, так что не надо слушать никого, потому что, к сожалению, у Кадырова дела идут лучше, чем многие хотели бы.
Gennady, if you think about Putin's residences, there was information in Russian opposition sources that Putin's residence in Sochi was demolished. The foundation was demolished. Why? Because he's not using it. He was allegedly there for the last time on March 6th, when he met with IAEA head Grossi. Through the drones that constantly threaten such facilities, Putin has stopped flying around residences altogether. How serious is this? How real is it that he's afraid to even move around Russia? Well, Putin is afraid of everything. Moving around Russia, sitting at the same table at close range with his associates, and the like. He's changed his security and support staff more than once. Of course, he's afraid of everything. But I do not think that in Sochi this residence was destroyed because of fear. Most likely, they decided to build him a more solid, reliable palace. He has 1.5 or 2 dozen of them. There is a book by Boris Nemtsov about Putin's palaces. You can read it and count the number. Perhaps there are even more of them, taking into account Gelendzhik. I think they just decided to build a more modern building, safe, luxurious. Don't think that Putin is sitting around afraid. No, he thinks he's doing pretty well. He thinks that Scholz will call him soon, that Macron won't decide to do anything, that he's winning the war. So he intends to continue it, including organizing offensives. The economy is mobilized, the defense complex is working, it still has plenty of money, and even more. I want to reassure the world community and Ukrainians. In terms of macroeconomics, Putin is doing quite well so far.
Они оживили потребительскую экономику в тех регионах, в которых никогда этой экономики не было. Ну и плюс еще, допустим, вот эти оборонные заказы, потому что часть оборонных предприятий...
These benefits have even revitalized the consumer economy in regions where it never existed. Plus defense orders, because some of the companies are located in areas with a bad economic situation. I argue with economists. They give convincing figures. But I say that everything is right in terms of figures, but this is not a meat grinder where you put money in and rockets come out. No, rockets are made by people, technologies, production organizations, components. Having money alone doesn't guarantee missile production. The real issue lies in human fatigue, as people in the trenches are exhausted and ready to give up. The collapse won't stem from a lack of funds, but from the stress, apathy, and depression affecting millions of Russians who realize they can't return to their former lives. This growing factor cannot be overlooked. I think the army may start to refuse to fight, especially if serious work is done in this area. The army does not know what is going on in the country. I say this all the time, including in meetings with politicians. They talk about phones, YouTube channels, Telegram. But in the army, if you have 5 phones in one place, something goes missing. What phones? What iPhones, iPads? There is nothing there. You need to throw leaflets around to show what is happening in Russia, how the top brass is getting fat, who you are fighting for the power of crooks. It is necessary to show and bring the truth to people. So far, this idea is not working. But there may come a point when moral, physical, and other fatigue will lead to the army simply refusing to fight. It's not for nothing that Gennady is raising the payments to 3 million, because 2 million is no longer desirable. This is cannon fodder. This is hiring cannon fodder. When this meat finds itself in the trenches, it faces a horrifying reality.
Людям в окопах понимать, доводить до них правду. Ну, пока вот видите.
Why does the Russian army suffer heavy casualties? Because they don't care about the lives of soldiers. They can be left wounded, sent to fortified positions where death awaits them. They can be wasted, imprisoned, thrown into a pit. People on benefits go there and face the realities of war. Many people's minds are changed. This contingent needs to be worked on, so they realize they are idiots. They were given 3 million, but Defense Minister Ivanov spends 3 million for one night in a hotel, his wife twice as much. This should be explained and brought to them using grandfatherly methods. This will affect their attitude towards commanders, authorities, and the order in Russia.
У многих может меняться сознание, обязательно меняется. Вот в этот момент и на этот контингент надо работать.
I have been saying this for a long time. There are many things that we cannot do without Ukrainians, and Ukrainians cannot do without us. But so far, we have an indirect dialogue. I talk on the air, and then someone answers me.
Его жена в 2 раза больше. Вот когда надо это показать, объяснить, довести до них традиционными дедовскими методами, эта информация, это, конечно, будет влиять на их отношение и к командирам, и к власти.
There has been no direct dialogue for almost 3 years. That's bad. In fact, all this can still be corrected, as they say it is not too late, but it should have been done yesterday, even the day before yesterday.
Ну вот, пока у нас диалог такой опосредованный, я рассказываю здесь в эфире про это, а потом мне в эфире кто-то что-то отвечает. А прямого диалога у нас как не было, так и нет. 2,5, да почти уже 3, сколько уже? Уже почти 3 года. Вот, поэтому это плохо.
By the way, if we talk about losses, in September, the average losses per day became the highest for the whole full-scale invasion, 1.271 people. The British General Staff gives data that the recruitment is about 900 people, and the consumption of cannon fodder reaches 1,200-1,300 people.
Британцы дают, что набор идет порядка 900 человек, вот это пушечное мясо, а расход идет до 1000.
The understanding is as follows. So many resources and so much cannon fodder are needed in Zaporizhzhia and Kherson that even this will not be enough to realize what Lavrov proclaims. They live in a world of their own, making exaggerated demands. This is a very clear pragmatic calculation, like at the market. You come to the market, ask how much tomatoes cost, and they tell you 100 rubles.
Стамбульские соглашения, ну, как всегда, да. И он опять-таки говорит, что ВСУ должны выйти из 4 областей Украины, я напомню, да, Луганская, Донецкая, Запорожская, Херсонская, Крым, конечно же. Кстати, вот сегодня советник Эрдогана сказал, что Россия должна выйти со всех территорий Украины, в том числе и Крыма. Но к чему я? И вот Лавров говорит о 4 областях. Зачем, ну и, конечно же, не вступление Украины в НАТО и все другие условия, там, которые раньше оглашались даже и Путиным. Насколько это оторванность, Геннадий, насколько есть или нету понимания, что ну вот Запорожье и Херсон, но нужно столько средств, нужно столько мяса, и то не хватит, чтобы воплотить то, что провозглашает Лавров. Они чем-то другим живут, или они там предлагают какие-то завышенные свои требования?
Это очень четкий прагматический смысл, очень четкий прагматический расчет. Это как на рынке. Вы приходите и говорите, сколько стоит помидор там.
You say, I'll take it for 40. How for 40? All right. Let's haggle. That's what it looks like. They make demands, and if you want them to be real, let's bargain. Now, the task of Putin and his terrorist gang in the Kremlin is to start bargaining, because bargaining opens the way to a respite.
То есть задача сейчас Путина, Лаврова и всей этой банды террористической, засевшей в Кремле, начать торг. Потому что торг открывает дорогу к передышке.
That is, you can better prepare for war, conduct partial mobilization, and inflame passions in the country. Bargaining means recognizing Putin as the legitimate leader of the country. Bargaining is already a victory. By and large, Putin has won the war so far. Yes, if we fix everything now, he won it, because the entire civilized world, the US, NATO, and others were unable to give him a decent response and besiege him. He specified in the constitution some territories that had never existed in Russia before. In Russia, out of 17 million square kilometers, at best 1.5 million square kilometers have been developed, and even then with big problems. Why do we need additional territories that nobody needs? But it's not about territories. The war wasn't started for them. The war was started in order to raise Putin's rating and to give him the right to rule the country indefinitely so that no one would raise the issue. The territories serve primarily as a symbol of victory for Putin, ensuring he doesn't appear weak or lose support from his courtiers. They want him seen as a winner, engaging with the world. Putin dreams of bargaining with the Western coalition, hoping leaders like Scholz will reach out to him for serious talks. They wait for the bargaining to begin, so they keep raising the stakes so they can then retreat to the limit where they feel like winners. It all makes sense. There is nothing complicated about these maneuvers. Neither Putin nor Lavrov. Everything is predictable. Gennady, thank you for this conversation. But it seems to me that it is somehow difficult to call the West a collective partner.